Hello, everyone. This is Hannah Smith-Brubaker, Executive Director of PASA. Welcome to our latest COVID-19 webinar. Today, we're going to be focusing on farms and markets moving online. Before we jump into today's topic, though, I want to ask Christina Kostalecki from PASA staff to just jump on for a minute to give us a couple of last-minute updates. Every week we try to make sure we're sharing up to the minute information. So she has a few things I'm going to ask her to address before we dive in.
Thanks, Hannah. So I really wanted to briefly touch on a couple of really important opportunities that are out there right now. One of them being the Small Business Assistance SBA PPP loan. And the name is sort of a misnomer. It really should be called a grant because it can be fully forgiven if at least 75% of the loan is used for payroll costs. And this is really important that farms consider applying for this. One, it's really important because you have increased labor costs right now, and you are being impacted by COVID because of those increased labor and material costs. So I really encourage small farms to receive a fair share of their portion of this loan or potentially grant when it's all forgiven. It is currently not funded. The funds ran out from the first round. However, it is estimated that as soon as Friday, will be re-upped by Congress and able to apply again. So this is a really good time this week before Friday to get in touch with your loan officer and get the paperwork together. PASA has created a really simple, a relatively simple to use spreadsheet to calculate how much of a loan you could be eligible for. And it's relatively easy to go through this spreadsheet and fill out the few cells that you need, and that loan calculation will automatically pop up. A lot of the loan lenders will use this calculation, and you don't need to fill out another loan calculator. And the actual application is a relatively simple 1 or 2 page form that is not especially difficult to fill out. Again, this number here is straight from your loan calculation, and loan agencies are getting these processed as quickly as possible. And we want to make sure to emphasize that farms are eligible for the PPP loans and that you ought to be applying for them. We actually conducted a webinar on this, and that is on if you go to the pasafarming.org/COVID-19, you can find a link to it on there, and it has a lot of the FAQs that may come up. So that is the first topic, the PPP loan or potentially grant when it's all forgiven. The second thing that I wanted to bring up was the USDA food box distribution plan, the RFPs for which are going to start this Friday. So we actually have a poll during this presentation today that we'd like to share with you all and invite you to complete that poll. So I'm going to share that now, and you can participate in the poll throughout the discussion today, and we can talk about it a little bit more at the end. But if you're able to vote on that poll now and throughout the webinar, we can use that information as we move forward in terms of other webinars and topics to talk through. So Hannah, I'll pass it back over to you now.
All right, thanks, Christina. So yeah, feel free to complete that poll. I know for me, it sort of popped up in the middle of my screen. You can just click on the top bar and move it off if you want to. So today we're pleased to have Andrew Mefferd from Growing for Market joining us, as well as Halston Maierle from H6 Design, and Aeros Lillstrom, co-owner of Who Cooks For You Farm. Our agenda for today is I'll give a brief introduction. We'll turn it over to Andrew. We will move on to Halston and then Aeros, and I'll give a little summary at the end. If you have questions at any time during this webinar, please enter those questions into the Q&A. We did receive questions ahead of time, which we will start with addressing at the end of today's webinar. But any questions that you bring up during the webinar today, we will try very hard to answer today. If by chance we don't get to them today, we will answer them in follow-up to today's webinar. So before we get started, just a reminder, we've been reminding people every single week to remember pre-order, prepay, pre-pack, then deliver or grab and go. And any part of that as a farm or a market that you're able to adhere to, more of it, the better. Really, this is the secret to being able to navigate all of the restrictions that we're facing currently and to keep people safe. So without further ado, I will introduce Andrew Mefferd from Growing for Market. Andrew is going to be talking about general considerations for online marketplaces. Andrew?
Yes, great. Thanks, Christina. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. I am going to talk briefly on the various options that I've seen farmers using, and I guess this is mostly informed by just the interviews that we've been doing here at Growing for Market. Of course, trying to just be relevant and up to date on our coverage as well. So in that capacity, I've talked to a lot of farmers over the last couple of weeks about what exactly they're doing, and I'm gonna be as brief as possible because I know we have two other speakers and then we have time for questions. So I'm gonna cover things as quickly as I can, and then if you want to hear more, we can address it in the question time. So the first thing that I want to talk about three different options that I've seen people do, which is the first one is a Google Doc or an online document without necessarily a payment. Doesn't have to have a payment system enabled. The next system that I've seen people doing that I want to talk about is prepaid cards. And then the last option is the online store, which I think the next speaker has more to say about that. So the document that you're seeing on the screen right now is the pre-order form that was made using a Google form by my own farmer's market. So my background, my family's from Pennsylvania. We originally started our farm in Pennsylvania. Now we have a farm and run Growing for Market magazine from our farm, which is now in Maine. And so the reason that the Skowhegan Farmers Market, so my hometown farmers market now, actually opted for the pre-order form without payment is a very specific reason. And that is they wanted to be able to put the whole farmers market online. Okay, so of course we've seen a lot of people moving their single farm inventories online, but our farmers market, like a lot of farmers markets, is a mix of people who are tech savvy and could set up their own online payment systems, and people who are not tech savvy at all, may not even use a computer and are not gonna, they're not gonna set up an online store unless they pay somebody to do it for them, it may be a good option. So the reason that my farmers market opted for a form is because they could just talk to everybody. Every single vendor at the market gets an option to list whatever inventory they have. And so that screenshot there is from the Skowhegan Farmers Market. I think it's skowheganfarmersmarket.com. Unfortunately, you can't see this form if you go there right now because it's been so popular. The way they do it is they put everyone's inventory online. They open it up on Mondays, and then people have a chance to order. And the last 2 weeks, they've shut it down by Wednesday because they're running it at a cap of 50 orders right now, and they're maxing that out really quickly. Just like all around the country, we're seeing the demand for local food just spiking. So hopefully, they may be able to open up more bags or something like that. But the nice thing about this form is that there's somebody taking the information. So in this case, the market manager. the market manager is asking everybody for their inventory the following week. Whatever people say that they have gets listed on the farmers market website. And so essentially, a customer, let's say a longtime farmers market customer, instead of having to walk around and actually go to each person's farm stall, they can simply order everything that they would have wanted that particular week. Like the screen we're seeing right now, they say, okay, I'll have a dozen eggs from Ramble On Farm. I'll have a bag of lettuce from Moody Town Gardens. And a new thing that the market added, you'll see up at the top, is a market mixed bag. And that's a new thing since the whole COVID outbreak has started. And so what that is it's almost like a CSA box or bag with a market-wide CSA. So it is, that market mixed bag includes one product from every single vendor at the market. And so it's kind of like, it's a nice option if people don't want to take the time to go through and really scrutinize the form and pick out what they want. They can just buy that mixed market bag, which I think was retailing for $61, $62 or something like that last week. So they can just sort of either order a mixed market bag with a little bit of everything, or they can go through an a la carte, pick everything out. Now, the reason that this farmers market opted for an online form that was just the document without a payment method was because some of the items that people are selling, like steaks, are the best thing that comes to mind, right? If somebody says, okay, I want a tenderloin or something, or a filet, they're not completely uniform the way that, let's say, a 1 pound pack of ground beef or something like that would be. So this form allows pre-ordering without prepaying, because then the person can still submit their order. And what happens is that what happens is that whenever they shut off the form, the market manager takes that information. And once again, because the growers are all different levels of tech savviness, the market manager actually breaks that spreadsheet that comes out of the back end of the website down, and simply transmits to each market vendor, okay, you pre-sold 12 pounds of ground beef and 15 bags of lettuce mix. And so that each farmer can simply can show up at market with their pre-order stuff packed separately. They give it to the market manager, and the market manager and volunteers pack that bag. And so there's a dedicated prepaid or pre-ordered pickup lane at farmers market now, where people simply line up in a lane right next to where the farmers market is, because in Maine we're still having farmers markets, but people who prefer to do the pre-order or don't want to mingle in the market can just do it that way. So the one rub there is that people don't get a total, because it's simply a pre-order, and it may include items that vary in price, right? So the rub there is that people still have to pay. And so what they're doing is people are either writing checks or I'm not even sure if they're still taking cash, but I guess that's also a decision that's up to the individual market. So people are writing checks or running a credit card, and the volunteers can do that. And so they don't even have to get out of their car. They just hand them a check, hand them a credit card, it gets run. And it's really a nice way that everybody in the market, regardless of whether they're tech savvy or not, can have access to the pre-ordering and pick up, make pickup bags. Okay. The second option that I wanted to talk about is with an idea I got from Hillview Farms. They're a farm out in California that I interviewed for the article that ran in the current April magazine of Growing for Market. So we ran a long article with interviews, because when we realized that this was really going to be a crisis through the Growing for Market, social media, and other channels, we asked growers to reach out to us with strategies that were working. And so One of the farms that I heard from was Hillview Farms in Auburn, California. And so they have this thing that they call the Farmily card. And so they make the point, they did not make up this idea. They got it from somebody else, but I was able to talk to them. And so what their Farmily card is it's almost like what we would call a free choice CSA, where people pay up front. And the idea is that instead of getting a pre-picked CSA box, you would pay up front. The customer gets a 10% essentially discount or a bonus for prepaying. So like it says there on the screen, the Farmily card is in 3 different denominations. I believe they do $150, $300, and $450. So for example, if somebody pays them up front $150 bucks, then they tack on an extra 10%. So the person pays $150 bucks and they get $165 worth of credit. And the way that it's loaded on a card is that they use Square, which is a point of sale system, so a POS system. Square, I know a lot of people are familiar with Square because in my experience, at least, it seems like the most common way that individual farms are taking cards at farmers markets. So Square is a whole system that allows you to do point of sale and take credit cards from people. But one of the other things that they do that certainly was not on my radar screen is that they will sell you gift cards. So they'll sell you what looks like a little credit card, but it can only be used at your store. And so it was interesting. In fact, Hillview Farms was telling me for the first year or two of their Farmily card, they didn't even use the debit cards. They just kept an Excel spreadsheet. So basically they said, Jane Jones gave me 150 bucks, so she has $165 worth of credit. And so they would have a ledger. I guess it was a spreadsheet. So they would basically say, June Jones would start out with $165 worth of credit. She would come to the farmer's market and buy whatever she wanted. And they would simply keep a running tally. Okay, so June spent 40 bucks today, so now she only has $125 worth of credit. What they said is that was just a lot of logistics. It was just really complicated to keep spreadsheets and have to be debiting everyone's tally. So what they've gone to now, they buy these preloaded, they buy these gift cards. So you can buy gift cards from Square if you have a Square account. And so that card can only be used at your point of sale. And so that you can preload it, right? So instead of, your customer giving you 150 bucks and you noting on a spreadsheet somewhere that they have $165 worth of credit, now what they do is that someone pays them 150 bucks, could be online, or, this payment could be in person. And then what you do is you load up a gift card for them with $165 worth of credit. So what it does is it essentially turns the gift card into a debit card, right? Because that it works just like a credit card, except they can only buy from you, and then you don't have to keep track of what they've spent because it's just debiting the card. Whenever they come and shop with you, it's working that credit down. And so the only bad side of that is that there are credit card fees on that. So Square does get a little bit of your sale for facilitating the online transaction, but on the other hand, you're not having to keep those details. And so that I wanted to point that out as a way, if there's someone who's completely averse to technology, you could do it with simply a spreadsheet or a ledger that you keep in a book or something like that. But then there's the whole record keeping aspect. If you wanted to do a card, that's a way that a customer can prepay, but they can also then they can pay electronically, and you don't have to keep the record of what they have paid. Although it was interesting talking to Shannon at Hillview, she said that she does when they issue a gift card to somebody to use as a debit card, each card has its own number, and so they note who got which card, because that way if anybody ever loses their card, they can go into their Square account and see what that person's balance was and essentially reissue them a card. You know, it's like if they lose the card, it doesn't mean that their money is lost. So that is a really interesting option, and it also works well with a free choice CSA. In fact, I sent along some links to the articles that Growing for Market has published. Yeah, there they are. Thank you. So I did send along some links. So the top two are the two articles that we've published specifically about dealing with COVID. The last article on there that says market-based flex CSA, that is an article that was published in February of this year before we realized what a problem COVID was going to be. But it's a really good system for if you don't want to make up pre-ordered CSA boxes. That market-based flex CSA is a way where people can still pay ahead of time, but pick out things based on what they want, and you don't necessarily have to make a box. So that that market-based flex CSA could be used in conjunction with one of those debit cards. So if that's an interest, all those articles are free and available to anybody. You know, if you want to go check those out. Sorry, Christine, I may have gone out of order there. Getting to the links that I know you had at the end. Thanks for bearing with me. And then, of course, the last option for going online, you know, taking your farm online, is the online store. And so we do on my farm. We do have an online store. I will say. I did not set it up. My wife and a web developer did set it up, so I can't take any credit for that. You can see there, you know, our farm is called One Drop Farm, but that business is called Seedlings by Annie, my wife being Annie. So I just know that I know that so we've had this online ordering system for many. Well, actually, we took the seedling business over from somebody else, and they already had online ordering, which is a really nice thing for us because it means that what we do is when people can start pre-ordering as soon as we open our store on January 1st. So luckily, we had this already all set up, and we didn't have to set up an online store under duress. I'm very sorry for those of you who are out there having to do this right now, but luckily we already had it going. We typically open the online store. We open our online store on January 1st. And so it's a good infusion of cash flow for us. The way we have our system set up, because it's the system we took from other people or the previous owner, is that people have the option to pay half up front. Most people just go ahead and pay for their whole order. So we start getting the cash flow to help with our early season expenses potentially as early as January 1st. And then we have 1 week when pre-order customers are supposed to show up and pick up their pre-orders. And the idea is that we've pulled them. So we have a lot of those black bulb crates that a lot of farmers have. So the idea is that we take their seedlings, put them in a black bulb crate with their name on it, so that when they show up, there's no hunting or anything. They show up and it's just like, okay, here you go. Here are your seedlings. And so far, we usually shut the online ordering down at the end of March. This year, because of demand, my wife left the online ordering open until April 15th. And now we've received over 3 times as many pre-orders as we normally do. So, one of our questions is, are the pre-orders going to cannibalize the regular retail sales? Because typically people would come to, a lot of times people would come get their pre-orders and then wander through our retail greenhouse and buy more stuff. So I'm guessing people probably won't be as much in a mood for that kind of thing this year. And we're also figuring out, we're still working out our program of how to be able to do seedling sales with social distancing guidelines. I mean, the good thing about the pre-sales is that if that's all somebody wants, we could potentially bring their order out to their car, put it in their car for them. So that, the pre-sales are going to be easier for us to do. We're still trying to figure out how we're going to do, or even if we're going to offer the option of a retail, or how we're still figuring out how to do retail this year. But we do wonder, we do wonder if the demand for retail is also going to be 3 times as high this year, or if a lot of people who are going to buy plants retail just decided to do the pre-order instead, so they can do the quick pickup. But our website is WordPress, and the online store for our website is through WooCommerce. And so that's where I'm going to leave it, because I think the next presenter is can really talk about online stores better than I can. And I'm happy. I'll hold the line and be happy to take questions at the end.
All right, thank you, Andrew. So a little bit about me. My name's Halston. I am a graphic designer, and I specialize in branding and content managing. I've helped plan, build, and set up and administer online marketplaces in both in and out of the food and agriculture organization. So today, what I'm going to be doing is talking about a few different online platforms. One of them being FarmMatch. It's one that I actually currently administer for an Amish farm that does deliveries bi-weekly to New York City and Lower Connecticut. A local line, and Shopify, which is a pretty common e-commerce site. So those are going to be the ones I'm going to be talking about, and also I'm going to be talking about also how to best determine if an online platform is best for your farm, because there are a lot of different needs out there. Every farmer, every shop is going to have its own unique needs, and there's hundreds, potentially thousands of online marketplaces. It can really feel overwhelming to choose. So one of the things that I did is I created what's up right now. It's a online platform comparison sheet. So I put in the ones that I'm going to be talking about, and some of the commonly asked questions or things that you should be thinking about when you're doing it. And then I left space where you can fill in your other, like, more of your own. And then also you can add in your own features that you would personally want. So so these are ones that typically people would ask, but you might have a unique use case that would kind of go out of that realm, that might be really something that you need. So some of the things to keep in mind when you are choosing a platform, first, usually people think price. The price of the platform is really going to be sometimes a big depender on whether or not you're going to go with it or not. The ease of setup is another thing. Are you going to be able to do it yourself, or are you going to have to hire somebody else to set that up? There's a lot of different sites out there where it's very much like kind of plug and play. You can throw in your pictures. You can do this yourself. Others, you're going to need a developer or somebody else like that to help you, or maybe completely do it. The ease of sign up and joining for customers is a really big thing. So having customers and having information on your customers is a really important feature. It's good to know who's ordering. Is it the same person ordering every time? Is it always new people? These are really good things to have to be thinking about. Another good thing would be user experience. So both the user experience, both from your perspective on the back end of the site, how easy is it to use, and is your experience using this platform good? And then also for the user experience of the customer, is it easy for the customer to place orders? Because if it's not, there's a lot of markets out there that they could easily potentially go to somebody else that has a better site. So that's definitely something to take in consideration. Some other things to think about are sales reports, analytic tracking, depending on how far you want. How do you price is a huge one. Do you price by unit? I know Andrew talked a little bit about it in his. So do you price by unit, or do you price by weight? And are you able to amend weights later? So being able to amend, not all online stores can accommodate amended weights. It's a very it's a very tricky thing to do. Usually what happens is people order, they kind of pre-order, and then what happens is once you do the weights, then you send out a final bill. So you kind of give an estimated weight on a lot of things. And not all sites are able to do that because of the calculations of unit pricing and all of that. There's some stuff that causes some issues there. Another thing on price is the ability to set minimums. Setting minimums, again, like you might have so many that setting the minimum, like you might have so many orders that you want to do, but you need each order to hit a minimum for your customers. So that's another important thing. Customer segmentation, a lot of you are going to be doing retail sales or wholesale. So are you going to be doing on-farm sales and wholesaling? If you are, you're going to want to be able to segment your customers so that you can do both retail and segmentation. Does the online platform have marketing options? Marketing options being a whole bunch of different social media integration. So can you do social media marketplace? Can you do promoted ad integration within social media? Do you have the ability to do emails and newsletters? So is it integrated within your platform, or is it easily able to be exported out to other email marketing platforms like MailChimp or Constant Contact, Emma, or some of the few out there. There's quite a few out there. And then does it contain SEO, which is the search engine optimization? So search engine optimization basically increases the quality and quantity of your website traffic. Basically, it increases the visibility of your website when people go onto a search engine to find you. And SEO is considered the natural organic results, where it's not paid. It's not paid advertisements that are getting it. It's the wording that you use within your sites and metadata that you put in there to really do that. So from here, I'm going to move on to FarmMatch. So FarmMatch is a platform that I use right now that I currently administer with an Amish farm in Center County, and he's doing deliveries biweekly to New York City, Long Island, and Lower Connecticut with meat and dairy and a few diverse vegetables. So first off, FarmMatch is on the lower end of the price scale. It's relatively inexpensive, but there's not, you basically, what you get is what you get. There's not a lot of growth to it. So some of these other ones are going to have add-ons like apps or other things that you can add on. And FarmMatch at the moment doesn't have that ability. I do know that they are talking about adding it, but it's a great place to kind of start. It offers customer segmentation lists, pick pack lists. So because this does do, this does do amended prices. So what you can do is you can do pick pack lists, pull the pack, pull what you need to pick before delivery, weigh out everything, and then adjust prices before the sales go out so that you can bill. This has a sales report. It's not the most advanced sales report, but it is exportable to CSV. So if you wanted to import it into your own accounting software, it does have that. It also offers inventory management, and this is one that offers built-in email, which is really nice, though the email is very basic. You're not going to get the fancy e-newsletters that look really nice that you could potentially be doing with MailChimp or Emma or Constant Contact. The only thing about that is, because you can do basic email within, it's really hard to export your member data outside of FarmMatch if you do want to use it with somebody else, or if you decide that FarmMatch is no longer who you want to use. It's a little bit difficult to export your members out than to call on them later, which is definitely, I would say, something you need to think about. Are you able to easily pull your client list or your member list? This FarmMatch also provides delivery zones. So if you're doing delivery, you can set a delivery zone, you can basically map it out, pull around a map and say, we'll deliver within these zones, and section out those delivery zones. And, or if you're doing drop-offs or any type of buying club, you can also do pickup locations. So that's it for FarmMatch. I'm going to move on to Local Line next. Local Line is actually a really nice web store or online platform store. One of the really awesome things about them, that just came out, I just saw, they have the option for $250 for a complete site setup. So it kind of gets rid of that need of the developers, which is or somebody kind of to implement your website, which is really nice. So with that, it gives you really nice delivery routes, where actually, if you have a delivery route, if you're doing delivery to individual homes, it will actually map out the best route, which is really nice. It allows to set locations, minimum orders, frequencies, the fees for deliveries, and lead times. So if you need a lead time for orders, it will tell people those lead times, which is really nice. And also, it continues to give you that efficient route between all deliveries. This also offers the customized customer segment lists and pricing. One of the nice things about Local-Line is that it has a built-in CRM, which is client relation management. I'm trying to think of the name of that, but the CRM, and so you can really, it's really nice because then you can actually pull your data out. If you decide you no longer want to use Local-Line, or for some reason Local-Line goes out of business, you can easily pull your data, your member or client list data, so it's not tied specifically to the platform. Which is really, I think it's really important. It nicely integrates with QuickBooks, so you don't have to export out your information and then plug in your own CSV into these. You can actually integrate it directly in with QuickBooks, and it integrates with a website builder. It has a free website builder and hosting, which is rare these days to find kind of all in one, where it does the hosting as well within its price model. It also links out to Market Maker, which is a really awesome tool. So again, those are really like nice things that Local-Line will feature. Its user interface and user experience are really, really nice. But it does not have in-house credit card processing. So you would have to still use Square or Stripe, I think, are the two that it integrates with. But again, most people are pretty familiar with those and have already used those. So most people's user data will pull over pretty seamlessly to utilize that. The last shop I'm just going to kind of touch base on is Shopify. So Shopify, I'm sure everybody has probably used Shopify, whether you know it or not. If you've shopped online, it's a pretty common. It's almost like Square in popularity. A lot of websites these days are using Shopify. It's a e-commerce, and not only are they an online platform, but they also do a POS, a point of sale system. So if you have an online shop, you can integrate both of them together. So one of the great things, like I said, customer familiarity. People are really familiar with it because so many people have used it. You can customize it to look exactly like your website or your brand. So most people wouldn't even realize that they're leaving your page to go on to Spotify. So if you already have a website, you can brand it directly in, and it will look exactly like everything else that you have. So it's kind of that seamless integration within your workflow. It's extremely expandable. Shopify has their own app store, their app exchange, and it can really add features and functionalities. The one thing, Shopify can't currently handle amended weights. So if you do meets or other things like that, where you're amending the weights, where it's a unit, you can't currently do that online. But there is an app for the POS system, for the storefront one, and that app is called Unit Pricer. But so this is kind of the good and bad thing about Shopify is you can add apps. So you can add apps that are already on the store, or you can have somebody develop them for you. So you can pay somebody to develop them and then put them up on the App Store, and then kind of download them and use them to meet your needs. The problem with that is that if you're using an app that is kind of like the lifeline of your business, if the company stops supporting it, or if the company that has posted it takes it down, you could lose a very vital lifeline to basically your online marketplace. And then you might be having to spend quite a bit of money to have somebody else develop that for you. So just again, something to keep in mind when you're looking at these. This has integrated payment processing, and their marketing is amazing. You can do email. You can do email marketing with it. You can do SEO. It does automated marketing, and it has seamless social media integration. And one of the other things about Shopify is it's shipping. So if you do shipping, like if you have dry goods or other things that you can drop ship or ship out, this will provide everything. It does label creations. It does app tracking, so people can download the app and they'll know as soon as you've shipped it out when it'll get to them. If you're not the one doing the delivery itself, if you're using a system like USPS or UPS or FedEx or anything like that, it can do all of that, and it will calculate weights and other things like that to charge what the shipping needs to be. Out of most of them, Shopify is one of the easiest online stores to set up. So the ease of entry is really, really nice. Shopify, Square, a lot of those are really, really simple to kind of set up. And once you're set up, you can really move back and forth again. But the problem is that a lot of them are set up more for retail stores versus farms. So finding apps or other things that you can integrate in with it is kind of really where you would want to go. So so the rundown, I guess, on that would be there's a lot to consider. Every farm store is going to have their own unique use cases. So figuring out what you need and then kind of comparing them. Most web stores either have a trial period or a live demo, and I highly, highly, highly recommend trying several before making your decision on purchasing or using a web store, because what might look good once you start using it, you might find that for you it's really bad, or maybe even for the customer it's really bad. Like for you it's really easy to use on the back end, but for the customer's experience it's not really great. So testing them out if you have the time. I know with everything that's going on right now, some people are rushing to get web stores up, so having to test out a bunch of systems is not ideal. But if you do have the time and you do have the chance, I do highly recommend checking that out, because once you invest the time and energy to set up a web store, you kind of don't really want to move away from that. I mean, you can, but it's just a lot of time to kind of do that. So so with that, I'm gonna say again, I'm gonna link back right here is the links. There's a Google sheet and the Excel sheet that you can download at those URLs. I think that the slides will be available after this is all done. So feel free to go check those out. You can download them, you can use them, you can change them up as you want, and really customize it so that you can kind of use this as a checklist when you're looking at different online platforms. So next I would like to hand it over to Aeros, who will be talking about her farm's experience and transitioning to a different sales model since the COVID-19 outbreak happened.
Hello, my name is Aeros Lillstrom, and I am co-owner of Who Cooks For You Farm. So before COVID-19, we were sort of 50% restaurant sales. It included a grocery co-op, and then 50% to farmers markets. Out of the 50% for our wholesale, we lost about 90% of our restaurants have closed. So we quickly turned to an online store. What we already had, like our software platform that we were using to sell to wholesale, could become an online store. So we just, I created a new customer category, new price line, and I'd already actually started to implement that because I was going to do it the year before, but I just got swamped with uploading all my wholesale. If you have a farm that has a lot of items, it does take a lot of time to put them in there, especially if say you're working with a platform that has you adding an image. It's a really good way to entice your buyer, but it's also just another thing to do. So implementing that just happened immediately for us. We use it for, hold on, okay, so I'm looking at my screen. Thank you so much, Christina, for making this for me. I was in the field late last night. I really appreciate your help getting me on here and helping me figure out what I was going to say. So the many customer types, so we're still selling wholesale to our grocery store, and then we do have some restaurants coming back online. So we work with local food marketplace in that it allows us to have many different price points. So we do have the market CSA as well, and we do something very, very similar to what the farm that was discussed earlier, forgetting the name of it, but it was like one of the first slides talking about the market CSA, the choice CSA of Hillview Farms. We basically at the same time they were doing that, I think we were maybe seeing each other's Instagrams and maybe figured that out. We've never spoken to each other, but it sort of happened. And we use the Square also for these gift cards. We do have a virtual card versus a physical card, because we had couples coming to the market, both would be shopping, and they couldn't share the same card. And they make a virtual card, and it's free. So that is really nice. All they do is say their name. We have an iPad that runs the Square payment. I you know, I pull down each item that they buy on the Square menu, and then I hit, you know, there's a card on file. They tell me their first name. I hit charge, and they get a receipt showing all the items that they bought and what the total was, and they get that every time that they purchase, from deducting from the credit that is created with the gift card. And it's an e-gift card on Square. And Square is totally free, which is awesome for you all to know that that system is free, like that e-gift card and CSA setup. And I also did the super ancient log of having paper and having to tally every week everyone's sales at market. Like it's you can definitely do that, but it takes time, and this is amazing how much less time and less mistakes you're going to make. So Local Food Marketplace does have a lot of add-ons. They have directory for delivery. They have pick lists and pack lists. I can print labels for my boxes for wholesale. And they are just figuring out now, sort of with this major push of a lot more boxes being made pre-orders, they're creating a label that could just be stuck on the outside of an order versus like having to, you know, get an invoice on the outside of the box so you know whose name's on it. So that's getting all set up. It is expensive, and it is extremely complex in its system. It's like entering somebody's brain and having to learn how to talk to a new person. So it is difficult to set up, and even still for me to work my way around it, I'm still learning. It's my second year into it. So it's like developing a new friend. The people that we worked with before was Cropolis, and it is very simple, very affordable. It's a great beginning to online ordering. My chefs loved it. We only worked with it through chefs, but it's very, very, very simple. And there's no imagery of your products, but it's just a line-by-line item saying how much it is per pound or by each, and someone can click, you know, I want one or two. And you can have separate price levels for different kind of customers that you're having, so you still could do wholesale and retail. It does do pick lists and pack lists. We were part of their whole beta section, so I was encouraging them to do this, try this, and they were like reaching a point of like, this is what we're going to do. They were trying to really keep it simple, so we had to move on to LFM because I needed it to be more complex. So with both of those sites, the one thing I always struggled with was sort of my reaching out to my customers. Neither of them had an email marketing, which I see that all the ones that were presented by the previous speaker, they all have that, which is really awesome, just to not have to go to a different site. And even though it might be more flashy, it's an intense thing. And also, if you're dealing with so many pickup sites, if you could orient your email to specific pickup sites, it would be incredible versus emailing everybody, and them having to sort of sift through the email of which is what pertains to them, the information. So social media, I actually haven't had time in these last several weeks to be very present, but it is a very big deal. We noticed last year, as my husband really was able to just be really free with it, you know, film planting out, harvesting, anything, and it was just, we got a great reaction from our customers. They felt more involved. They really got to see the farm. So that was really wonderful in just reaching out to our customer base. When we do, in the past, when we've had traditional CSAs, we saw that it was just really great for people to have awareness that when they walk by a storefront that has our CSAs, that they see that sign and they're like, oh, I didn't know that you were there, and they would join our CSA just to get our product. They didn't realize that we delivered there. So the signage is really key when you do have a pickup site, to just ask if you can put a sign out just for advertisement, so people will know what's going on. Also, if there's a bunch of boxes sitting there, like, what is that? And then they know. And then, oh, what is that? And they look into it, and maybe we'll join. For my emails, I use MailChimp, and it is very nice. I did have help setting it up. And for my website, I also had help setting this up. Even with the help, you know, I needed that help, just the time of doing it, and I'm not super tech savvy. I use Grapevine marketing and just small group of people, and that was they were super helpful in helping me figure out how to orient the web a lot more and be more active online. Wait, can you go back to the last slide? Thanks. Okay, and then so writing into your paper and just talking about things is really important. Advertising for yourself and making sure that you can let people aware of what you're doing in your community. And then so for staff, just we've had to, you know, go out of our traditional positions, and we are, you know, it's good to be more flexible. If you say you haven't necessarily done something, taking the time to train someone in a new aspect of the job is really great. I am going to be using staff for helping me with marketing, and there's going to be a ton more office work with picking up so many more customers on our website with questions and such. So it's been really great to just be able to pass off some stuff for the office. The next slide. I think. Yeah, so your emails that you're sending out to people, really being clear about where when the order window is open, when they close, with the pickup location, making sure you have the address there. If you can link to a map is even better. Any sort of ease for your customer right now is great. And as many links as you can provide in your emails and on your website will just make the situation easier for you and your customer, because then you won't get so many questions in your email, and then they can just sort of navigate themselves. Yeah, and just reaching out to people and telling them where you're at on social media and in your newsletters. I think that's it for me. Packaging we were going to maybe talk about, but that's just, it's a big deal for all of us. Our increased packaging, increased labor, increased time. Having all of these out there, there's grants out here to be applying for. Definitely try and go for as much as you can in all this, because we're going to see a lot more in increased packaging. For all my farmers markets that I have, everything has to be pre-ordered. So that's like a box that I need to give someone. Although we are going to be pulling the bag, we're going to be taking the shares pre-ordered orders in a box just for transport, and taking them out of the box and handing someone a bag, just to save you on all that wax cardboard that no one's going to recycle. So then you just can reuse that box, and it's only you that have been touching it. I think that's all. If we're going to leave some time for questions.
Okay, thank you, Aeros, and thank you to all of our speakers. I'll just mention one thing, since a press release was mentioned. PASA is going to be putting together just a press release template that any farm could use to send to their local paper about you know, anything that they're offering that maybe they haven't offered before. And I would say in general, please don't underestimate the power of sending a press release to your local news outlet, really about anything you're doing on your farm. They really want to cover local news. So don't be afraid to do that. So I wanted to quickly mention a few other direct sales software platforms. And this resource is available on our website at pasafarming.org/COVID-19, as are all the rest of our resources. Some of the other platforms are Barn to Door. Cropolis was mentioned. There's CSA Ware, Farmers Web, Farmigo, Grown By, Harvest Hand, Harvey, Local Line was mentioned, and Local Food Marketplace was mentioned. There's Local Orbit, Open Food Network, Shopify was mentioned, and What's Good. We know there are other ones out there. Feel free to contact us or let National Young Farmers Coalition know so that they can update their resources as well. We are going to move to the Q&A. If you haven't had an opportunity to respond to the poll yet, please go ahead and do that now. You'll know that you responded because the option for the poll will disappear from your screen. It should be available at the bottom if you haven't yet responded. Okay, in terms of our first question for Andrew, is there a minimum order for the combined market bag? This the questioner is saying, I assume they don't manage 50 tiny orders.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I actually am not sure if they have a minimum order, but I would think that you would want to. In fact, I'm not even sure if they do, because I've looked at the form, and that's actually how we've bought stuff from our farmers market through it, and I haven't seen anything about it. But I think it doesn't really matter, because I would think you would want to put a minimum on there, right? I mean, I $25 or something, right? Because yeah, you wouldn't want to be pre-packing a bunch of $5 orders. So I wish I knew that for sure, but I do think that you would want to have some kind of minimum on there.
Okay, thanks. And Andrew, also with regard to the question is, does this pre-ordering on the market website work best when all of the vendors supply different products?
That's a good question. I think in this particular case, just because I'm very familiar with the farmers market, because it's my hometown farmers market in this case, I know that the market, they just strive to have a mix of vendors. For example, they don't want to have 10 different people selling eggs. I think there are more than one person selling eggs at the market, but they also don't want to have complete redundant duplication. So I think there are.
Okay.
If you were able to look at that form, you might see multiple places where you could buy, say, ground beef. But I think just through selection of members, this market is like most, in that you have to apply, and it's a somewhat competitive process, in that if there's already 10 people selling vegetables, you're not going to be very likely to get into the market to be veggie seller number 11. So I think the market has handled that issue simply by through selection of vendors.
Okay. And then I think we have one last question along the same lines. How is the accounting managed? How are the vendors reimbursed with those combined bags?
Oh, that's a really good question. Okay, so our farmers market already has a I think one thing that may have made this transition easier to the pre-order system was that my farmers market already had a market-wide transaction system. And so in the normal way that it works is that when you show up at the market, you get a little slip of paper that has every single vendor, just has every single vendor listed with a blank next to their name. So it's like it's maybe a regular sheet of paper cut in half or something like that. So it's a long, skinny strip of paper. And so in normal times, the way this works is that you walk around to each vendor and you pick out whatever you want, and the vendor just writes on there how much your goods were. So, $25 from this farm, $25 from that farm. And when you're ready to leave, on the way out, you stop by, there's a little market booth. So you stop by the booth, and the person manning the booth totals your card, your strip of paper, right? So if you bought $25 worth of goods from two different farms, they would say, okay, you owe us $50, and they could run your card. And what they do is they keep that slip, and then at the end of the day, each vendor gets a check. Okay, so they get paid that day. So each vendor gets a check based on the tally from how many credit card transactions were run for their farm and the value at the end of the day. And so the nice thing about that is because the farmers market already had an a market-wide transaction system, which I believe was through Square, right? So you have an account that's a point of sale account, allowing you to transact people's credit cards, and then you get this little reader, right? And so typically the person manning the booth would have the reader plugged into their cell phone, and so people would come up and say, okay, I just spent I spent a total of $50, $25 to two different vendors, and they would just run your card for $50 and write each vendor. So each of those two vendors that you spend $25 at, they each get a check for, I think it's $25 less whatever the credit card fees are, which are like they're usually like 3% plus 30 cents a transaction or something like that. So that's how that worked. The market already had the Square point of sale system, and so now instead of people walking around picking out whatever they want and running their card, what happens is that people pick, instead of walking around and picking out what they want, people pick out what they want online, and then they either write a check to the market, and the market pays each individual vendor, or they run a credit card. And because the market, so when they run a credit card, the money from the credit card goes to the market's account, and then that same day the market writes a check, right? So as a vendor, you show up at the farmers market, you sell, people can buy from you using that collective credit card system, and then that same day, I mean, it involves a little bit of waiting around. So we're vendors at this market, right? So I know what happens usually is that the market ends, and while you're packing up, the market managers go and tally everything up as quickly as possible. I think sometimes if you're in a real hurry, maybe you have to go and you get the check the next week. But the way it's designed in the best case scenario is that you, while you're packing up, the market manager tallies all the money that was taken by credit cards that day and who it should go to. And so you get a check that same day, right? Best case scenario, you leave the market with a check with your all the community credit card transactions that you did.
Okay, thank you. So I'm aware that it's 1 o'clock. We're going to keep going through questions, and if presenters can stay on, that's great. If not, if you need to drop off, that's fine too. All of this is being recorded and will be sent to everyone after the webinar is over today. So the next question is in terms of, and I don't know, Halston, maybe if you have some input on this, in terms of online ordering systems and managing meat sales. I know we touched on this a little bit. What I've heard really are just sort of three different options. One is people are essentially putting a deposit on something and then get a bill afterward. The other is using one of the platforms that you mentioned that actually do allow for variable weights. And then now I can't remember what the third one was, but Halston, if you have any thing you want to offer as far as that goes.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, that's what I've heard as well. Yeah, you, deposit, initial deposit, and kind of the rough amount. The issue with that is sometimes people have to refund money, so that's kind of not usually very pleasant for the seller. But then also one of the other, finding a site that does amendments. The other one is to do a unit price. It's pretty annoying. Usually you do it by the ounce or by the gram, and then that gram, then you have to break down the price by gram, and then you add so many grams, and then you have like 60 grams equals this, and that's the weight. So I've seen people kind of go across several different things. It becomes very annoying. Some people, what they'll do is they'll actually kind of take an average weight. And so they'll say, okay, this is my minimum, this is my maximum. I'm going to kind of put everything kind of right in the middle, and hopefully the weight kind of adjustment works itself out in the end. So there's quite a few different options in that. But if the ability to amend is really, really, it kind of changes everything. It's really nice.
Great, thank you. I did remember what the third one was that I've heard is that some folks with Square are actually entering their actual inventory, their weighted inventory, but I'm guessing not everyone has that ability. So I'm going to try to scan through some of these questions specific to today's topic. And if I don't get to your question, we will try to answer them and share them after the webinar. Is the JOT form connected to your website or to Facebook? Can you do both?
This is Christina at PASA. So JOT form is a lot like Google Forms. It just has more advanced form building features. And essentially you can just create a link to it. So you could share that link, for example, on your Facebook. Most forms like that, you wouldn't want to embed directly on Facebook just because it's such a large form. Typically you have more than 2 or 3 products. And so visually it just becomes overwhelming. So you can certainly say, here's a link to our online form or our order form. And that could be the case whether you use JOT form or Google Forms, or honestly, any of these other systems. You can always link to them on your Facebook or your website. Specifically on Google Forms and JOT forms, you can also embed those on your web pages, but again, not necessarily on Facebook.
Great, thanks. The next question is, if all a farmer wants to do is list and sell products online, can we just use Square as our only tool to set up a basic online store? Halston, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so short answer, yes. Short answer, yes, you can. It depends on what you're selling and what your needs are. Again, if you have weighted products, it can be kind of annoying to deal with it. But in general, you would be able to set that up. Again, it just depends on what your needs are and can it meet those needs? Because Square does have a lot of capabilities, but it also is lacking a lot of them for a lot of food markets for online stores. So their POS system does have some other capabilities that their online stores do not.
Okay, thank you. Andrew, we got a request if you could please share more information about the market-wide transaction system. So if you wouldn't mind sending information to Christina that we could post after today's webinar, that would be great. The next one is just a suggestion. Our market is using local line and all farmers are using it as well. This allows for all market customers to pre-order from the market's local line site, but all payments come directly to the farmers through their local line site. So the market doesn't need to worry about handling any payments. So here's a situation, I think Center County is using local line. I don't know if this person is from Center County, but using the local line site collectively, but then the payment going to each individual farmer who is in the market. Let's see. Sorry. Okay, it looks like Errol had to jump off, so we will make sure that we offer her contact information so that people can contact her if they have questions. Christina, we had a question about now that the payroll protection plan through the Small Business Administration is out of money due to large corporations getting it all 6 days after we were told to apply, what do we do now?
Yeah, it's now is the time to be reaching out to your lender and getting your documents together, getting your calculations done. It has passed through the Senate and is expected to pass through the House here very quickly to refund that. Again, though, we expect that those funds are gonna go just as fast as they did the first time. However, I can imagine that nearly every single one of you on this call are eligible for the PPP loan. And again, it can all be forgiven if at least 75% of it is used for your labor costs. And then the other 25% you can use for rent, interest on mortgage, utilities, that sort of thing. But really the main thing is your labor cost right now, right? And so I highly recommend before Friday, before it gets approved, have all your ducks in a row, already have established the relationship with your lender so that come Friday when it's eligible, you are the first one submitting your application. And that's also what lenders are suggesting. So if you don't already have an SBA approved lender, or your lender is not really, you know, helping you out or working with you, please reach out to PASA and we will definitely get you in touch with some folks who have very much stated that they're interested in helping small family farms.
Okay, thanks, Christina. The next question is, how are online markets reaching folks who are accustomed to shopping at farmers markets with SNAP? This says FMCPs, I'm assuming some of the nutrition vouchers. So there are states right now, Pennsylvania is not one of them, that are testing the new WIC and SNAP system built for smartphones. And so we are trying to encourage Pennsylvania to do that as well, specifically for farmers markets. We'll keep everybody posted with our progress on that. What I've heard from markets is that they have folks that are using SNAP pre-order and then they're just having to pay at the market. But we'll keep looking for the most up-to-date information on that. Okay, the next question is, have there been any changes in the regulations for farmers selling their own meat directly to consumers? No, I am not aware that there have been any changes at all. Sorry, Jimmy. We did sort of ask a while ago about would there be any flexibility in terms of using custom meat processors, and we're told no. Let's see, there are a couple people that are offering some resources and we'll include those in what we send out to folks afterward. Okay, here's a question. I work with 8 farmers in Eastern Pennsylvania who deliver to 19 sites in a hospital network. Can you please touch upon CSA safety practices for farmer drop-off at an employee pickup of shares in medical facilities, typically the lobby or cafeteria? If you look at some of our prior webinars or our COVID-19 resource page, which is www.pasafarming.org/COVID-19, we do have resources that address this. Essentially, you're following the recommendations for farms and for farm markets. And the typical social distancing. There are some things that are probably more specific to the situation around if you're dropping off things in bulk, a whole bunch of orders, maybe you have one person dropping it off, you have one person picking up the orders that's already in the hospital and distributing them. But overall, some of the resources we've offered previous to this webinar might be helpful. How will farmers markets be affected with social distancing and quarantine? And there's a question here about similarly striking the balance between essential as a farm market and being an event without being able to access a permit. The only thing I could say about that is, if you were selling into a farmer's market and you've had to change locations, you do not need a new permit. You can temporarily adjust to a new location. You would only need a new permit if you're opening up a new location. Not quite sure about the event issue in this question. In terms of social distancing and quarantine, again, I would direct you to some of the resources on our website, particularly Penn State Extension has put together some interesting information about how to deal with social distancing at markets, including having one entrance, one exit, markings on the pavement for staying 6 feet apart, having things pre-packed and prepaid. We would like your guidance on how to handle cash safely. We're recommending that it not be the same person handling the cash as is handling the products. One thing that some folks are trying, if they have to accept cash, is to have envelopes and a cash box that people can just put their money in and slip it through the slot in the cash box so that the person at the stand is not actually handling the product. Okay, it seems like the only remaining questions are ones that we might need to just answer in writing to send out afterward. Yeah, so if your question did not get answered today, we will answer it in writing to include with the resources that we send out after the webinar. So thank you to Andrew and Halston and Aeros for your time today, and for all the attendees. We're about 15 minutes over, so we're gonna let our presenters go. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to contact us at any time. In terms of, Christina, do you wanna move the slides to the very end? So in terms of just general COVID-19 information, I've mentioned several times pasafarming.org/COVID-19. Also, if you work with anyone who doesn't have access to the internet, we do have a call-in line. It's 1-800-268-1599. On that line, there are some pre-recorded messages. At extension 716 are farm and farm market guidelines. Extension 717 is actually every day. Christina records the update from the Department of Agriculture. And at extension 718 are food production guidelines, and 719 are worker safety measures. So people can call in and just listen to those guidelines being read. Thank you for your attention today, and we will send the slides and the webinar out to everyone who registered. So have a great day.